I am trying to get this done as soon as possible because I am just so over it. Um, so yeah. And for people that are like, I can't, my thumbnail's not right. Well, Canva was giving me like a really hard time. So there was nothing I could really do about that. Um, I could just change the picture, but I don't like it. Um, yeah, I'll just change it to this picture. That's fine. I don't care. But I want to get this out here now. Okay. I don't even really know what to say because I'm not really that surprised at the performance that I saw. Because that's how all of our performances in Europe and or cup competitions are. Um, and so when we get to the point as fans where we're not so dense and always blaming individuals when no matter who the individuals are, we get the same performances, then we can have better conversations. There's no Zinchenko to blame. There's no Kai in midfield to blame. There isn't, there's nothing. The lineup that started that match is the lineup that everybody said if we had played that against Villa, if we play it today, that's the perfect lineup. And it wasn't good. It's not the individuals. The way that we set up in cup competitions to not lose, we always concede, and then we can't get out of this robotic coached thing that we are. And to me, that's pretty much all this really comes down to is we came into that game trying to stop Bayern from scoring, and we still couldn't do it. And we didn't offer any threat. Martinelli was out there. Remember, Martinelli has to start. That's what everybody was saying. Martinelli has to start. Martinelli has to start. He's the best left winger. Do not start Trossard. He's shit at left wing. Remember? And he was probably the worst player on the pitch. He didn't stop. One of the crosses he didn't stop and could have been a goal. I think it was the one that ended up being a header for Goretzka, and it hit off the bar. And then the second time he didn't stop the cross. Kimmich got a cross in. They crossed it back across, and then Martinelli still didn't track Kimmich. Boom, goal. So it's not really about the individuals. Setting up to not concede in games like cups are just so, it's just not feasible. It's just not. We played so timid, so scared, and so lifeless. There's no personality. They were like robots out there, and they looked genuinely afraid to concede. And what did I say before the game? If you're afraid to concede, you will concede. And you'll be so rattled that you won't be able to try to score a goal. Now, we had an opening in the first half, but it's not enough. It's not enough. This team is not clinical enough to have one good chance in the first half. That fell to Martinelli, and he did not put it away. Kai, he was a non-factor in that game. It was like having no one up there. Saka couldn't beat his man. He had Mizraoui, and he could not beat his man. Fundamentally, attacking-wise, in big matches, we offer no threat. And if we can't keep a clean sheet, we get nothing. We get nothing. And so I'm not surprised by what I saw because that's what I thought I would see. I was hoping we weren't going to lose in bunches, but we are losing in bunches. I think this is our third non-win. We haven't won in 3 games, so we're doing our losing in bunches thing, and we're going out of every competition very quickly in one swoop. This is just what we do. So if we can get beyond blaming individuals and just realize that in April, when we play in cup competitions, we play not to lose, and you cannot play that way unless you are so good defensively, and we're not, because we make stupid decisions and we are not all locked in. But playing not to lose in cup competitions and letting April suck us into this vortex of nervousness, that's not the individuals. It's not the fucking lineup. It's the fucking like way that we set up and the way that we don't go into the final month of the season with any level of confidence. You go into the final month of the season like we're so afraid to lose a fucking game. And guess what? We're losing. So I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know. But before the game started, I said that the lineup doesn't fucking matter. It really doesn't. It's not the lineup. We still conceded. We still look shaky at the back. We look shaky at the back the whole game. The whole game. The only reason why we didn't go down sooner was because they couldn't shoot. So it's not Zinchenko. It's not Kai in midfield. It's just not. Arsenal, when they get to April, cannot, they just don't go into that month with any level of confidence. They just don't. And playing not to lose, it just doesn't work for us. It just doesn't work for us. I was so like every single game that we played in the knockouts in the Champions League, we played it like a team that was scared of their own shadow. And what has been the theme of this knockout round? The fun, the performances, the individual quality, the moments, and the players that came with the personality. Dembele coming with personality. Sabitzer, Sancho, Brandt, personality, right? Lamine Yamal, fucking personality. Arsenal played with zero personality in that game. There was no personality. There was no individual quality. They were trying to run the same patterns over and over again. And those patterns, like Tuchel had them clocked. He had it set, like in the first half, it was obvious that they knew what to do. And we just kept doing it. Not a single player did anything outside. One player did. I'll give one player credit for doing anything outside and creating a chance through their own individual brilliance. And you know who that fucking player was? Tommy fucking Asu. There was one time where he came down, he was on the edge of the box, he got past his man and passed it to Martinelli, and Martinelli could not get a shot off. But he was the only person that I saw get in and around the box and create anything from his individual quality. Now, do I think this team has like no individual quality? No, I don't. I think some of these players have been coached out of their individual quality to the point where when they need to tap into it, they can't. But we are missing personality up front. We are missing personality up front. There's just nothing about that performance that said we want to go to the next round. It was so much of, it's like we approached it like trying to get the draw at the Etihad. And there is no draw in that competition. There isn't. There is no draw. You have to win it. And we didn't play like a team that wanted to win. We just didn't. So it's not like an I told you so thing or anything like that, because I get why people don't like certain players in certain positions. But I did say that I don't think it's the lineup, because we did the exact same thing when we didn't make top 4. When we got into April, the team just kind of stopped performing. And we're maybe probably a week too late. We usually have crumbled by now, but we are fully in it now. Because that performance, plus the Villa performance, plus parts of the Bayern at home performance are just not good enough. Like, they're not good enough. It's just not it's just not how you perform going into the most important month of the year, of the season. We have once again, we're performing terribly when it really matters. And for me, that is a little bit of individual quality. But when I see the players that I know are much better than this, because we just saw it a couple of months ago, the last 3 months before April, we're playing like the best team in the league, one of the best teams in Europe. So when I see them not even performing to that level, if we were performing like we were in March and February and shit like that, and Bayern just beat us, that is a totally different conversation than seeing maybe 3 games in a row where some of your best players are dropping 5s and 6s. That is not individual quality. That's not the fucking lineup. That's mentality. And unfortunately, we are going straight into the narrative. And the narrative is true. This team / manager doesn't have the ability to get over the line because the mentality is weak. I'm sorry, it's not it. You could, and maybe you need to add some better mentality players. But I don't understand why we're not ready to go into April and fight for our lives. Why we're just scared. We just look scared every April. I'm sorry. And this time I just don't have the same energy that I did last season. I just don't, because you start to stop believing what they're telling you. But pre-game, when they were putting out the little montages and shit, I was just like, they're not going to come with this energy though. I know they're not, because every April it's the same thing. Around this time, we start to blame individuals. It's so and so, it's so and so. But like I said last season, even though I do believe Saliba's injury had something to do with it, it wasn't a reason. You still didn't have to draw to West Ham. You still didn't have to draw to Southampton. That's not a Saliba thing. That's a mentality thing. You still don't have to get smashed at the Etihad 4-1. You know, it's mentality, and they don't have it. And so I don't know if it's the manager needs to figure out a way to manage getting to this point better and relieve them of some of this pressure. Again, I don't think pressure is a privilege for this group. I think they don't want the pressure. They don't like it. When the pressure is not on, they don't perform. Or when the pressure is not on, they perform. When it's on, they look funny in the light. And we know they're better than this. So the first half was not terrible, but it was not a performance like a team that was like, we're going to win this no matter what. And we're going to do, like, the individuals are going to make it happen. They were still playing within themselves, and then they fully crumbled in the second half. Neuer didn't have to make a single save, I think, in the second half. And after they scored, they got stronger and we got weaker. And I've just seen this too many times. I've seen this too many times. I saw it in 2021. I've seen it in 2022. I've seen it now. So I don't know, because it's not just about the fucking left back. This was happening when Tierney was back there. It happened when Kivior was back there. It happened when Zinchenko was back there. It happened today when Tommy was back there. It's not just the left back, you guys. Open your fucking eyes. Wake up. It's a mentality problem. And that is something that needs to be looked at from the manager. Is he setting up his team to be relaxed and excited and confident in these moments? Or is he scaring them so much and making them so risk averse that they can't play their game? Because that team did not play their game. They were not confident. They were not passing through the lines. They were not passing to each other. They were playing fucking hot potato back there. They're making uncharacteristic mistakes back there. It was just nonsense. And so it was a complete waste of time. That game was a complete waste of time for everybody but the rivals. Because we fucking stunk. Like, we were so off it. It's ridiculous. I was like, I just don't feel like we're going to score. Did anybody feel like we were going to score a goal? Because I was like, from minute one, I was like, I just don't think we're going to score. Because we don't look like a team that's ready to score a fucking goal. Like, And so, yeah, it's tough. It is. We cannot crumble in April every year. And we cannot we're a really poor cup team. It has to be said. Once we got out of the group stages, which is more like league, and we had to win to get to the next thing, we have stunk in every knockout game. We were all right against Bayern at home, but it really wasn't that great. So that needs to be looked at. But again, I know some people will say, like, oh, well, it's just we don't have the depth. What does depth have to do with the starting 11 actually performing? "Oh, well, we just don't have this." I don't care what we're missing. The performances that we see in cup competitions are not good enough. I just don't care because it doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if you throw in the rotated lineup or the main lineup. We are not good in cups. We're not. Like, we're not good in cups. And it's because we play like the league where, oh, well, if we draw, it's been fine because we're not out. I'm done ranting. Let's see what you guys are saying. Talk Politics says we don't have alternative wingers. We don't have a striker. And Arteta keeps playing Havertz in the middle while we have Partey on the bench. I mean, Havertz didn't play midfield today. That's not relevant to today. We played Jorginho. Everybody said this was the lineup. And Partey is not fit enough he's not fit enough to play. So it's not, I mean, going to Partey and saying, well, the reason why we didn't win today was because of Partey, then Partey hasn't played all year. Like, he hasn't been fit enough. So I don't know why this is not relevant to today. Havertz did not play in midfield today, and we still put in a shitty performance, but everybody was saying it's because he played midfield against Villa. It's not about the lineup. The team, from the best player to the worst player, does not have the mentality, including the manager, to perform in the last month of the season when it really matters. This has nothing to do. Well, first of all, we do have alternative wingers. We do. We have Saka and Martinelli, but you also have Trossard. You can also play Jesus on the wing. Those are alternative wingers that do different things. So, and even if they had started like they did against Villa, nothing is different. How could you say it's about Havertz in midfield when he did not play in midfield today? Like, I don't get it, you guys. Like, seriously. That's crazy to me. It's crazy talk. Lucas says, I'm glad you're talking about mentality. All timeline is about fitness. It's not fitness. It's not fitness. To me, it's not fitness. Even if you are low on energy, it can't be every single season at this point that you don't have the fitness levels, because if you don't, then you haven't fixed it. And so we've had 3 seasons of not having fitness and not having a fit squad. Like, people can't even blame injuries this time because we have our full team. And so personally, I think you make more mistakes and you play more timid and you look slower. You don't look as fast and dynamic when you're not confident. I think this team is lacking confidence and mentality more than anything. Because even if you are tired, like, we could sense tiredness, but I didn't sense tiredness. I thought from minute 1, we looked fucking like scared. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just couldn't see the fatigue. I could see it a little bit in some of the players. Like, I thought like Ben looked a little tired and Rice looked a little bit tired, but nah, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. Olusu's Musiala is who we think Saka is. Saida says setting up not to lose isn't necessarily a bad thing when you've got special players that can create something out of nothing, but we don't have them. Odegaard is the only special one in attack, and we don't, like, we went too far in the other direction, I feel. And, we've spoken about this a lot on this channel, is like, are we too defensive? Like, whatever, are we playing too conservative? And I do think that, like, we haven't really gotten the right formula between the kind of like off the cuffness that we had last season and the defensive solidity that we have this season. Last season, we scored a lot of goals despite not having clinical players because we created a lot of chances. But in order to create those chances, we had to take more risks. So Saliba and Gabriel were left more alone. Where this season, we quite literally have 2 DMs and 4 center backs back there. So our defensive solidity is better, but we're not able to really like create a lot of overloads. We're not really able to like put them under pressure. And so when you create that one chance that Martinelli got, they don't put it away because they need 3 or 4 of those, right? And so we haven't really found that balance. And that's unfortunate because I think this team has a lot more to give than what they showed today, but they just look very much so like the fact that I remember more of Saka playing like a fullback than anything else we just didn't really exert ourselves like an attacking side. And that's really unfortunate because I don't think this team lacks I think they do lack some individual quality, but it's not that bad. But you're right, like setting up not to lose is not that bad, but you have to have players that can put that one chance away, and we don't have that. So you have to take a little bit more risk, and we have the players that you can do that with. Because if we're going to concede anyway, like we conceded anyway, then it's not worth just trying to absorb the pressure, you know? We never leave anybody up high. We don't really like Dyer and DeLitt had nothing to do. They had no pressure whatsoever. Like, and that was the second game in a row that it was like that. It's crazy. It really is. Let's see. Macmillan says, I don't understand the impatience with Arteta. I would have loved if he could have succeeded Klopp at Liverpool class manager. Um, Listen, I don't I don't know. I feel like when you're emotional, you don't really maybe think that clearly. As disappointed as I am about the way that we're going out of the Champions League, and it's embarrassing, the narratives are not great, whatever. I do think that like our first time back in, it's really difficult for me to say that I believe that we should be getting to the final and winning it, which I feel like a lot of Arsenal fans, if it doesn't matter what we would have done, even if we had gotten to the semifinals and lost, even if we got to the final and lost, it doesn't matter if we did not win it, Arteta needs to go. And I just feel like that's disingenuous. Um, and so as disappointed as I am about the Champions League, I know that we can do better next season or like learn. Where I think I'm more frustrated is the league. That's where I feel like I'm more frustrated than anything. But I just don't think that like Arteta's ever really been someone that the majority of the fan base or like the loudest mouths in the room are ever going to give any sort of like patience to, because they've wanted his head on the spike since the first season. So anytime that we lose a game or we have a poor end to the season or whatever, it it's going to be like this. So yeah, I think Arteta has done a good job. Um, I don't know if he's the guy to get it over the line because there's no evidence of it. That would be my biggest concern about Mikel, is that I still don't know if he's the guy that's going to get over the line because he hasn't done it yet. That being said, I don't think there's any evidence that he's 100% not that guy either, because he's so new in his career that I don't think that like he's not like 10, 20 years into his career where we've seen it at multiple clubs and he can't get over the line. So we kind of know what his track record is. It's still very unknown with Mikel. Is it looking good? No. Um, but and especially when you have like Javis and Jabis that are winning the league in their first season, automatically you're gonna think, well, why can't Mikel do that? Um, so it's not looking good, but at the same time, I don't think there's any like definitive like evidence that Arteta cannot win anything at Arsenal. But you also can't say in the other direction that he's the guy either. So it's tough, and I don't think there's anybody that we could get beyond an Ancelotti or something like that that guarantees that we're going to beat Pep to a league title or beat whoever to a Champions League. So yeah, I think that's how I think about the situation. You know, I'm like, if I saw like an obvious candidate, I think I'd be like, yeah, we need to dump off Mikel. Um, but I don't know if I do, so yeah, we'll see. Shamaria says they look so robotic, no invention or special moments from us. Surely that's down to coaching. I mean, you have to think about it this way. I you look at Martinelli and Saka. I've seen them have special moments before. Maybe it hasn't been under Mikel. I've seen Saka have it, especially for England, and Martinelli pre-Mikel under Emery has had some special moments. Like early on when he was younger, like, he was really like, you could see that there was like a sparkle. Like a lot of people thought he was going to be a superstar. Some people still believe it. He could still become a superstar, right? And Odegaard, we know that he has special moments in him as well. We've seen it at Sociedad, in particular, and sometimes at Arsenal. But I do think that they've had some of that coached out of them. And And it becomes really obvious in games like this where we're so focused on not conceding that when they get into those attacking positions, they're automatically looking for these patterns or for something to look like what they've done in practice. And unfortunately, um, when we play against the better sides, they're so smart in stopping those patterns. And so they automatically take it, like we pass it straight to the other team because we're like, okay, that's where Odegaard is supposed to be. Like Saka gets these, like that's where Odegaard's supposed to be. Odegaard is there, but you know, Limer is standing in front of him, but Saka can't think outside of that and be like, okay, like let me pass it to somebody else. And so they are too coached, especially for the like for cup competitions. For the league, it's a little bit different because we'll beat not like 95% of the teams playing the way that we play. And that's there's evidence of that because the last 2 seasons we've done that. But in cup competitions, because we can't even beat like small like championship teams sometimes, we definitely don't have the balance right when it comes to cup competitions for sure. And I would love to ask like Martinelli or Saka what they think about, you know, do they like attacking the way that we do, or if they wish they had some more freedom? Because especially like from Saka's perspective, he's tail end. This is not the Arsenal way that we know of from Arsene. And so I wonder if they feel a little bit stifled as well. Because when it works, it's fine. When it doesn't, it's like, fuck, it's really bad. So, and today was really bad. Today was really bad. And from an attacking perspective, it was shocking. It really was. Like, we could not figure out how to create a clear cut opportunity. And anytime we got in and around the box, it was like, if there was 4 right decisions, we made the 5th one that was wrong, you know? And that's been a consistent theme in the tougher games. Like I always tell you guys, we look really blunt against the better sides because we're so trying to keep them from scoring. When we get the ball, it's like we're like dumb. It's crazy, you know? So yeah, OG says, I dare Arsenal to sack I still dare Arsenal to sack Arsenal. I guess you mean Arteta. He needs more support. It's just a matter of time he will win. It's a tough one. Because I also think like you have to also think about the fact that like you have to go back to the summer window and say, did we address the major things that we were supposed to in the summer? I think we're unlucky with Timber, but I really just think the elephant in the room is that Arteta needed a left center mid and a striker, and he had 65 million to kind of spend on either one or the other, and he didn't. And we're seeing the ripple effect of that. And he has so much power that in multiple summers, I feel like we've missed the mark on what we've needed. We've gotten some pieces or things that have worked, but how long have we been talking about bringing in another midfielder? How long have we been talking about getting a striker? And every season, we're having the same conversations about not having enough individual quality in the final third, and not having that other midfielder. And so I just feel like, yeah, like you want to give them more time, but also there needs to be an adult in the room. When we're in the summer window, like you cannot miss. You cannot miss. There cannot be. I'm already worried about some of the stuff that I'm reading about, oh, well, you know, they're changing their mind about a striker and they're going to go for a versatile attacker. That is the last fucking thing we need. We don't need a versatile attacker. We need a striker. We need somebody that all they care about is putting the ball in the back of the net. They don't have to be as like uninvolved in build up as Holland, but they have to be a number 9. And I just feel like, yeah, you want to give him more time, but he has so much power that I'm almost like, does he recognize that he's missing the marks? Or does he think he's making the right decisions and things just haven't come together? Because like there has to be somebody that says, bro, like you just need to get the right things. Because I cannot look at how, like, besides the coaching, I cannot look at how the season has unfolded and not think it was just so simple. Even if you still would have, like, if you hadn't got the strike, you got the left center midfield would have been solved, which was our biggest problem all the way up until February. We did not figure out midfield until Jorginho started playing in there. That took half the season. Or if you had gotten a striker, even if you were fucking up in midfield, you would have somebody that didn't miss the chances against Villa in both games, against Newcastle, again, you know what I mean? So as much as I'm like given more time, I'm like, there has to be an adult in the room here, because I just cannot unsee. I cannot unsee. I can't unsee. Get good attackers and buy a fucking midfielder. Like, it's not that hard, Like, to me, it's not. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, and still, like, in 2024, bringing in Nketiah to help us win, uh, Champions League quarterfinal, is just ridiculous. Like, it really is. Like, the fact that we're still having conversations about Nketiah and Reece Nelson for me is also, we're the adults in the room. We've had multiple windows to move this guy on. We've had multiple windows to move on Reece Nelson. And they're both there, and neither of them offer anything. And you bring in on Nketiah to help us. Now, we could have probably brought on any fucking buddy, and we wouldn't have scored because we were not even, it didn't even look like we were trying to. But there's just in big 2024, we have to grow up. We cannot have him in the team anymore. Like, come on, let's be fucking for real. So in big 2024, I'm not seeing Nketiah come on in a Champions League quarterfinal to help us get through. I'm not seeing that. No. But I also talked about before the game that there's a lot of dead space on the bench too. Like no Emil or no Fabio or Emil were trusted to come on, which again, like if we're trying to score a goal, the two of them can score goals or at least create opportunities, but we're still bringing on Nketiah, so there's just so many questions, but listen, it is what it is. Brian, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Says that what hurts the most is that this just might be our level. The attack is not good enough to win major honors. We have to ask questions about Arteta. I mean, I don't know. I just listen. This is our level because this is the level that we've created for ourselves. I don't think that we did enough. You know, I don't think we did enough, to really up the levels this season. I think there's a period of this season, which was like a two, post Dubai was like what, a 2.5 month period where we were finally playing to the top of our ability. But there was a whole period before that. And now in April where it's falling apart again, or it's not good enough, or just the margins are just not there, So the levels that we're at, I think, are a combination of just avoiding bringing in the right players in the summer and also keeping players around that don't need to be here, and the manager still not being able to figure out how to get us over the line in difficult moments. When we get to April, we just look like a different team, and not in a good way. Where City get better in April, we get worse. We were playing the best football in the world, and as soon as we got to the difficult part of the season, we started to look like shit, or like a team that didn't believe, and so to me, I think our level is like this because of self-sabotage. Like I'm not surprised that this has happened. Like, you need players that are going to create moments. You need goals in difficult moments. People, like, when we get against the better sides, we don't score enough goals. We don't create enough openings. We just don't. We're so afraid to concede. And then we don't have the players that are confident in those moments. And the manager's also not really doing it either. So it's just wild. Yeah. But, we could get better, but also we've been talking about these same things for Yo-Yo will say, I don't know if Yo-Yo's still in the chat, but it's been about 2 summer windows where we've asked about the midfield, left center mid in particular, and striker. And we're still talking about it. So Valeria says, do we still have time? Do we have the time? Some of these players will leave if don't win stuff, as evidenced by signing short contracts. You guys know my fear has always been that we'll lose really good players off of the back of not winning. I already saw like a report this morning that Real Madrid really likes Saliba, and I think he will go. You know, if we probably have one more season with this group, one more, you know, and so there needs to be some like tough decisions made. And the thing is like you either have to, first of all, they have to figure out um if we're seeing enough growth from the manager that it's worth passing up other opportunities. Like, is there anybody out there that you're looking at that could be better and is keeping with Arteta better? You know, they have to figure that out for themselves. I don't think it's something that they should not discuss either. Um, and then they have to figure out what are they going to do in the summer window where they are going to win trophies. They're going to create a team. They're going to fill all those holes. And one thing about me is I just don't trust I don't trust them because it's been so obvious what we've needed for 2-3 seasons and they keep avoiding it. They keep avoiding it. They keep avoiding it. They just keep avoiding it for some reason. So, you know, they're going to have to look at that. They're going to have to look at that, but I don't want to lose these players trying to wait for Mikel to get to being a world-class manager because that's what it's going to take for us to be able to win the Premier League and win the Champions League and be competitive in both every single season. I genuinely feel like we're going to need a world-class manager. And even with that is no guarantee. Because remember, Klopp is like, as he's the world-class manager and he had a world-class team for a number of years and only won the Premier League once and was damn near perfect in every season and only won it once. Now, he did get to several Champions League finals and also won the Champions League, but, you know, that's what it's going to take. And so I've always said that Arteta needs to be a world-class manager. Like, he needs to become one, and he needs to become one quite quick. And there's times where it looks like he's going to be that, and then there's times where I'm like, does he have it or not? You know, and that's something that they're going to have to figure out whether or not they're going to risk because we can't afford another Saliba. We can't afford another Saka. We can't afford those types of players, you know, so you're lucky that you have them now. We bought Saliba at 27 million. You're lucky that Saka came from your academy. You're lucky, you know, so if you lose those players and we have to start over, we're going to be in trouble. So they need to figure that out. It's another season where I actually don't feel like there's been a massive improvement overall. I feel like we've improved in certain things, but the trade-off has been so great that we've kind of stayed in the same position. So we've improved defensively, but it's taken away from our attack. So we're kind of still in the same position, if that makes sense. So yeah, they have to figure that out. Chola says, but Jess, don't you think that even that midfielder comes in, he will also be coached to a level of being a robot? I mean, I don't know, you know, but is Arteta going to change? I don't know. Like I don't know. That's a possibility. It's a possibility that he gets like he could get a striker and start making them play like a fucking DM. He could, you know. Um but he needs to let go a little bit. Like I was thinking during the game that like this team needs a 2-week clinic with Arson just to rid themselves of this like thing that they do. Because to me, it's not bad when we're in the Premier League most of the time because we're so dominant in the Premier League most of the time. It's fine, but in the cups, whew, child, it's terrible. Basho says Arteta is arrogant. Changing it up would mean he was wrong. He'll never admit that. He has to change. Like he has to change. He has to change. Like he has to figure out. He has to be humble enough to be like it hasn't really worked out. And I know that this season there was a lot of pressure for Arsenal to win it all. Like we had to be the best team in the Champions League and the best team in the league and win trophies, whatever. But I also think that because we haven't seen like a super improvement, it's still like if we were still gonna lose to Man City and we're gonna go out to Bayern, but we had improved so much that we could like very much so see it. I do feel like people would be a little bit less harsh, but there was just too long of a period where we were kind of like in a malaise, and it really took too long for us to figure out that, hey, you might just need 3 midfielders in midfield to actually like function. It took too long, so yeah. Um, I feel like there will always be um a conversation around the Havertz thing. To me, that's just very much so like the the thorn that will always be in my side when it comes to this season. It's that I just feel like when you have 65 million and also 275K per week that you can give to a player, that player, whether it's a striker or a midfielder, has got to be somebody that lifts your team up a lot. And I think two players that have suffered a lot from this signing um, has been Odegaard and Rice. And some people will say it's been Martinelli, but your best DM, your best creative midfielder, whether or not you think Martinelli is our best left wing, whatever, that's a lot of trade off for not a lot back. Because as good as Havertz has been, he still doesn't even have double figures in goals. So the trade off has not been a Holland like trade off. It hasn't, so that will always stick out to me because every time we have a big game where we don't really look like ourselves, I always think about that signing. It's the first thing that comes to my mind. And I'm like, God, it would just be so nice to have another midfielder that can just like make a difference. It'd be so nice to have a striker that could just make a difference, you know? Um, and that doesn't mean that I don't like Kai either. I do. I really like him. I think he's done a good job, especially in our best period. But what, he's have 1 goal involvement in the Champions League? So, yeah. So yeah, that's you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like it's a more nuanced conversation than just like Havertz is a shit player, because I don't think it's that. But we didn't need to do it, and it was a very arrogant thing to do. I feel like it really was a very like arrogant chess move that I don't think has really paid off, you know. Clement says the only thing left to win is all 6 games, and hope that Man City drops 2 of their 6 games to win the league. Listen, today, in isolation is not that bad, but in the conversation of not winning in 3 and the way that we lost to Villa, they better fucking show up against Wolves, or else I'm not watching a single other game. They cannot expect me to watch us fuck up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they cannot expect us to watch the slide. Like, please just stop the bleeding. And but they usually start to perform again once there's nothing to play for. So that's kind of how we operate. We'll I mean, technically it's probably over already with Man City, right? But lose to Wolves. See, I'm not even gonna do this with y'all. I'm not even gonna do this with y'all. I'm not even gonna do this because you know what it is I don't want to doom us. Like whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. Um, but I will say like the pattern of Arsenal is to continue to lose until there's nothing to play for. And I hope that that's not what they do. But God, the performance today was just not it. It just wasn't, was it? Jonathan says facts. If we're being objective, we've tried to make Kai work, but it just doesn't work. It's not like it just doesn't work. It hasn't given us anything substantial. Like it hasn't given us anything um that made us better. It made us different, and maybe that's the problem with the signings that we made, is that they didn't necessarily make us better. They made us different. They made us better in ways that didn't actually affect the bottom line. So like bringing in like Rice made us better defensively, which is great, but you needed to become more solid defensively, but also maintain the level from an attacking standpoint. And the whole beginning of the season, we did not maintain that. We were really like getting by with the set pieces. and then we started to kind of hit our stride in the middle, and then now we've fallen away again attacking wise. So yeah, we made trade-offs, and those trade-offs have not helped the bottom line. Ultimately, we're still going to be a team that probably finishes in the mid 80s with a lot of goals, and we probably have not conceded as many, but it doesn't matter because we've lost too many games, and that sucks. Let's see. Um, let's see. Jaden says, nah, I'll be honest, he's a shit player. I don't think he's a shit player. Sam says, exactly. The key word here is arrogant. Getting Kai and keep playing him was a sign of ego. Jonathan says these players are weak. They'll start performing when the pressure is off. They also have to look at themselves in the mirror as well. They have to look at themselves in the mirror. They really do. Because I say this just to be super clear with you guys, that it's so easy to blame individual players because it feels good because you're beating down on one individual person, but genuinely it does not matter who it is. We really fall apart every April, every season, no matter who it is. It's a mentality thing in the club, in the team, in the manager. It's not an individual thing. It genuinely isn't, because even when we didn't have Rice, we still did this with Partey. So Partey is not like the savior because he went to the Etihad and pulled his pants down. Like, you see what I'm saying? So it's not individual. It's something that it's deep within this club to be losers when it really matters. And we haven't shaken it. We're better in terms of the system and our organization and stuff like that. But have we built a winning culture? No. Have we built a better team? Yeah. A more functional, effective team? Yes. The winning is all that matters, though. And we haven't corrected that yet. And so that comes from the manager and, bringing in players that have that mentality. And I don't know if they it's so harsh, but the way that they capitulate every April, no matter who it is really kind of scary, you know? So yeah. Um, let's see. Luking says for a better name, Bernardo Silva pen. Oh, they went to penalties. Okay. I'm honestly not on it. I'm not even watching it. Basho says, imagine the trauma one must suffer to bottle the season 2 times in a row. I feel bad for the players. Last season was definitely bottling it because we were ahead. We were never really ahead this season. We were actually always almost behind. We were ahead for 1 or 2 days. So I don't really consider it bottling the league. I think we just weren't good enough. We just haven't been good enough to be better than City. Chola says, Jess, I was praying that if we can get through April and win all of our games, we would be better. Guess I was wrong. The thing is I was talking to somebody else about this. We had won 9 games in a row or something, or hadn't lost in 10. The idea that we were going to win 6 games in a row was kind of naive. I think on some, not saying you, but some fans thing, they're like, oh my God, we're the idea that we're going to win 16 games in a row or not lose any in that period was very naive. But I could stomach a loss or a dropping of points if I felt like in the next game we would correct it. And that's our biggest problem. It's not that we lost to Villa. That's not the biggest problem that we have. Losing to Villa happens, but it's the manner in which we lose and the fact that we can't rebound after and we crumble and we lose in bunches because we don't have the mentality. So being 2 points behind Man City with 6 games to go is not the end of the world, but it's the end of the world for us because we know the team. We know the team and we know the club, and they haven't changed the narrative. So we were always going to drop points. But the fact that the fans were like, it's the end of the world when we lost to Villa, and the fact that the players have kind of also shown to be almost feeling that way as well by putting in another bad performance. Yeah, we don't have it. We don't have it. We don't have it. We don't have it. Timothy says, yes, this gal speaking facts about the mentality thing. We need to shake the demons to win. Otherwise, we remain playing with small bumbleclop mentality when we should be competing against big dogs team. I just don't know what the repercussions psychologically are going to be for a team that's honestly, for a young team to, if you think about it in a different way, right? A young team that was never expected to fight for the league last season, did it and lost, should be excited for the opportunity the next season, but it's felt like almost like a burden this season. I'm projecting. I'm projecting right now. So this could be completely off the mark. But there's never been a moment this season where I felt like this team relished being in a position where they were expected to do anything. Last season, as soon as we were expected to do something, we fell apart. And from the minute that this season started, there was like, it felt like there was a weight. Then it kind of went away after Dubai, and then it came right back when we were meant to do something at the end of the season, when we got ourselves ahead in the league. And then all of a sudden it was like, boom, it hit us again. And so it's, as a young team, I just feel like they shouldn't be this mentally fragile, because young players are meant to be almost like young and dumb, like so young and so exuberant that they can go again and go again. But they almost look like a team that's in the end of their career and has not won anything. And that's strange to me. Young manager, young team, looking worn down from 2 title races, 1 title race, because we were worn down after the first one. The mentality is not good enough. City is out. So if we had just gotten to the next round, we would have had to we would have faced Real Madrid, which would have been that wouldn't have been fun, because again, we would have went in there with I'm imagining something that wouldn't have never happened. We wouldn't have never went out there with any sort of excitement or freedom. But that being said, that means that Man City can very much so just like very focus on the league. So it is what it is. So yeah, I love this team. I love this club. And if you guys haven't noticed by now, I'm probably not going to do player ratings. I don't really feel like that's the best use of our time. We've been talking for about an hour, but I feel like just almost like a therapy session is probably better use of our time, because we can talk about individuals and I'll go through the comments about the individuals. That's fine. But genuinely, like, there's no point in doing player ratings. I'm looking at, there's no point in doing fucking player rating. Like, there's no point. Like, there's none. Um, no ratings. I mean, you guys could do ratings if you guys want to, but I feel like the best use of time is more of a therapy session. So yeah. Clement says mentality is the number one problem for this club for years. Manager, player, and ownership. We do the bare minimum in transfer windows. I'm looking at the Kroenkes, Edu, and Arteta this summer when it comes. I agree. I think it all trickles down from the top, and I just don't like the stress level that we seem to be under in moments of adversity. And I just still feel like, as a young team, they just feel too like they feel too like a team that feels like if they lose this one game, it's over. Um, and the fans are like that. Everybody's like that. And I'm just like, that's not how it should be. So yeah. Sammy says, or Sam says Declan Rice would get a 3. Yeah, he can get a 3. That's fine. Yo-Yo says both legs Bayern won the midfield battle. Blood on Arteta and Edu's hands for me. I don't feel like we've gotten enough, like, from anything that we've done. But the midfield was like everybody's like rooted to their spot. Nobody moves. Nobody like. There's no, like, how many times do Jorginho and Rice actually pass to each other? I think one thing that's irritated me about our midfield is like first of all, we don't give the ball to the midfielders at all. It's the 3 at the back are passing it amongst each other. Then they pass it to Saka, and then Saka passes it to Odegaard, and then they try to go around the houses. There is no central penetration, like, at all. And then it's just like very much so like not connected to the rest of the team. And I don't know, it's just like it's wild to me. Like I know some people are um I know some people are looking for an individual to place everything on, and if you love certain players that didn't play today, then it's the player that's in their position that was at fault. But I would cast your mind back to Zinchenko. Like everybody blamed him for the Villa game just for us to play just as bad, if not worse, against Bayern today. Like it's genuinely not an individual thing. It's the way that we approach games when it really matters. It's genuinely that. Like I kid you not. Because some players were not here last season and we did the same thing. So it's a lot, but again, I think a lot of the summer didn't help. That's what I'll say. The summer didn't help. It changed the dynamic of the team, but didn't necessarily push us forward. Um, I still feel like there's tons of questions about the bench. To bring on Eddie to give us a goal, I know that neither one of Vieira or Emile Smith-Rowe are strikers or they're not goal scorers, but I genuinely feel like they have more chances of creating something for us than he does, but they're not trusted. Vieira has not played in a long time. And so if my thing with Vieira is like, if you don't trust him, then you need to move him on. Because what Arteta does is he keeps players that he doesn't play in difficult moments. He just keeps them around and lets them rot. And I don't really understand why that is. Like Reece Nelson. You don't trust Reece Nelson. We know that. Reece Nelson, it doesn't play at all, and we're playing fucking Saka's legs off, you know? And so why did you keep him? Why is he here? He's just a waste of space on the bench. You know? So I don't expect, like at the end of the season, I expect one, if not both, of Emile Smith-Rowe and Fabio Vieira to be gone. They have to, because they're not trusted. You could take the two of them, move both of them on. And by the way, I think both of them are talented and could have done more if they were given more opportunities. But get rid of both of them and bring in like a real quality number 10. Just do it. Like there's no point in keeping these guys around. There's none. You don't trust them. And you'd rather play Eddie. And that's shocking. That is shocking to me. It just is. It just is. Like, get rid. Like, just move them both on. I genuinely feel like from Jorginho and Partey and Emile and Fabio, one or two of them should survive this summer. I am not kidding. I am not kidding. Like, out of the four of those, ideally, I would only want one of them to survive it. One. But maybe two. But I expect, like, you got to make it shake in midfield. You have to make it shake. You have got to support Odegaard better and Rice. You have to get them in the positions that suit them the best. Rice is best at number 6. There's nothing that you can tell me that will make me think differently. He was bought to play the 6. He is the number 6. And if you just had a genuine left center mid there that could do the things that they want him to do from 6, passing between the lines and all that shit, if they just got a left center mid that can do that up the pitch, then we wouldn't be seeing Rice at the 8. Because it worked for a certain amount of time, but let's be for real. There's been against Brighton, it wasn't that great, and both legs against Bayern, it wasn't great. Please buy a left center mid. Stop the bullshit. I don't care if it's a Paquetá type. I don't care if it's a Bruno G type. Just fucking buy a midfielder. Just do it. Just do it. Like, what are we waiting on? Like, that midfield needs surgery again. You have two midfielders that genuinely should be looked at beyond this window. That is Odegaard and Rice. Everybody else, a bid comes in, you need to consider it. You need to consider it. Like, you have to. These guys are not, whether it's fitness or not being trusted by the manager, they're not offering anything. They're not offering anything. Now, one player that I do want to say that I do think played well was Tomiyasu. I just want to say he got beat one time, but beyond that, I thought that he was really good. He basically stopped Sane from doing anything, and he was winning the ball up high and actually trying to make things happen when he got into wide areas. Shout out to Tomiyasu, because I thought that he came with the right energy, and he was probably the only one. I thought everybody else played within themselves. I thought Tomiyasu was brave. I thought Tomiyasu was brave today, genuinely. But he's the only person that I can say that I felt like I was even remotely impressed with their performance. That's it. Everybody else. And as you get further forward, the performances get worse. You know, as you go forward, the performances got worse. Crazy. Let's see. Greg says, time for another clear out, and that includes players like Jesus and Partey. Yeah, I mean, Jesus, people are going to have differences of opinion on it. But anybody that for 2 seasons, at least 2 seasons, have played less than 50% of the season need to be looked at. Seriously. Less than if you this season and in multiple seasons have played 50% or less of 2 seasons, you probably need to be looked at. So that's it. Partey, you guys know how I feel. Yeah. Deddy says, losing to Bayern was pretty obvious since we've progressed so far into the Champions League after what seems like an eternity. I'm proud of the progress that Arsenal has made in just a few years. Come on, you Gunners. It's the way that we went out, though, Deddy. I feel like you can go out, but don't go out sad, and I feel like we went out sad. I feel after Bayern got the goal, we attacked even less than we did before. We lost all of our attacking threat. They were on us. We weren't winning our individual battles. I felt like they just got the better of us, and I'm not 100% sure it's just because they have more quality. I just think they wanted it more at certain points. It just looked like they wanted it more. Musiala creating opportunities on his own, getting into the box. Kimmich arriving in the box, and scoring that header. De Ligt and Dyer defending with their lives. I just felt like they wanted it more. And I felt like our players, as soon as they scored the goal, were very happy to just they could have literally just left they had asked them, do you want to play the last 15 minutes or do you want to just go home? I feel like some of them would have just said go home because the body language is fucking terrible. And you just want to see your team go out swinging. And I don't feel like whenever we lose, most of the times when we lose, I don't feel like we go out swinging. I feel like we kind of accept it. And that's, I feel like, what's going to hurt most Arsenal fans more. It's not that we went out to Bayern. Anybody with a Scooby would have known that this team was not going to roll Bayern over. Any suggestion that we should have was just setting up the team for failure so that you could be upset when we inevitably went out to them. But it's just the state in which we do it is not acceptable. And it just reminds me of when we went out to West Ham in like the Carabao Cup early on in the season when we rotated. Everybody said it was because we rotated. It wasn't because we rotated. It's not about the lineup. We don't play well in fucking cups. We go out there, we're too fucking timid, and we don't create moments. We don't create moments. Doesn't matter who's out there. We look like we could not be asked today. And sometimes, like some of the moments, we look like we were just like, is this over yet? And that's just unfortunate, So yeah, we made progress, but you can't go out sad. You can't go out sad. Batman says Jorginho and Tomiyasu were Arsenal's best players today, by the way. I thought Tomiyasu played well. But that's also why I was like, no point in doing player ratings because no matter what, everybody is going to get, anytime we lose, people can't be objective. Everybody was shit when some players were not shit. Today, more players were shit than good. But I thought Tomiyasu was the only one that looked like had any fire in his belly. He was winning all those individual battles against Sane, which was one of their most dangerous players. But nobody else was winning their individual battle. I don't think Martinelli beat Kimmich once. I think Saka went past Mazraoui once. Goretzka and Limer had a very easy day out against our midfield. Very fucking unfortunate. you know, and Kane was diabolical. He was. We kept Kane like quiet, but it was we kept Kane quiet, but like it was easy to because I thought he was just shit, you know? So it's tough. It's tough. Let's see. I feel like you keep making like new accounts just to like ew. I'm doing these kicking people out on my own. Some of these people are fucking weird. Um Dude says, "Where are the mods?" I don't know. They're not here. Ugh. Chola says, "Good night, Jess. See y'all from fam next season." I think a lot of people are gonna switch off now, and that's unfortunate. Issa says, "Not once this season have we come back from behind and won. It was over the moment they scored the goal." And I feel like, um, I feel like that's been the biggest problem this season. Not, it's like we can only operate in certain states. Like if we score early, score a couple goals, we're going to win it. But if we go behind this season, it's done. And there's something about that. This team doesn't have the fight to like, and that's the thing about this team that I feel like last season's team had a little bit more of was the fight, you know, the fight and they had more personality than this team. This team is a little bit more robotic. And once they get ahead, that's it. You know, it's like this team, once it gets ahead, that's it. But if you can get a goal first, this team is not coming back. And that's not Arsenal. Arsenal have got to get to the point where fuck the system. We're going to fucking win no matter what. And the emotional side of this team is really missing. And there's no chaos. There's no fire. Like, I didn't feel the fire. Like, I was very much like looking at their faces and I was like, these guys aren't going to do anything, are they? And I feel bad, but it was like, you kind of felt like they weren't going to do it because they didn't really do anything from minute one. They were very much like, it was so fucking cagey. And I think it's like Arteta creates a situation where he focuses so much on not conceding that when things don't go to plan and we do concede, and we usually concede within, it's like the 65th minute and the 80th minute. If we're going to concede, we usually concede around that time, right in there. And once we concede there, there's no coming back. Where last season's team, it could get into the 90 something minute and we're scoring. You just felt we were going to score. And so, yeah, maybe you just strip the team of too much of too much of their personality. Here to There says, last year, way more personality. This year, robotic. The joy has been coach beaten out of them. I think that whoever this is just keeps creating more accounts, which is very strange. Basho Low Life says, I mean, getting third in the Premier League is fantastic if you're Aston Villa, but for us, nah, man. Mr. Happy says, where are the mods? They didn't show up. And that's the thing. Listen, they like sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not. We'll work on it, you guys, for next season. I'm sorry. Levon says, didn't like Saka's interview that he would prefer Premier League or Champions League. We just don't have enough dog about us and soft touch. Listen, like on it, like I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't like it either. After you win a Champions League game the way that we did, first of all, I didn't like that Saka was up there because I thought he had a poor game. But I thought Odegaard should have been the one that went up. But that's neither here nor there. But Saka went up there and they were asking him, does he want the Premier League or the Champions League? And he was, well, I don't know, because, and thinking too much about what people are going to say. And I'm just like, we don't speak with any chest. We're very like non-committal about things as well. And I don't know if that's, I don't want to project too much, but it manifests itself on the pitch. I feel like there's enough evidence on the pitch that, you know, our main players, as good as they are, probably need some more dogs around them to light the fire because they are too Switzerland for me. They're too wanting to do and say the right things instead of just being like, we're going to fucking win this game. They would never say, we're going to go through. They're going to say, we're going to do everything we can to get the best result for us and try to go to the next round. That's what they're going to say. They're not going to say, we're going through. And you can feel it in their play too, which I'm projecting, but I feel like I can feel it in their play. And so this is why, like, when people are like, you know, because I was talking to a friend about this the other day, should we go after somebody like a Bruno Guimaraes, who I've always been a fan of, and I was very devastated that we didn't get him. Now, is he annoying now because he's at Newcastle and he has like a chip on his shoulder against us? Absolutely. But would I take him? Yeah, because he's an ass. And you need players in your team that are not nice. And you need players in your team that don't want to lose. And I feel like we have too many people that are kind of okay with losing. And he's kind of like, I'll try to win no matter how I need to, even if I have to cheat to get there. And I feel like you need players like that. You know, everybody's just a little too okay with losing. And they're not arrogant enough. We need a little bit of arrogance in the team on every line. And yeah, we need to look. We need to look at it. And Arteta also is very methodical and very scientific about everything, but does he have enough personality himself? Like, people will say he has a lot of personality. I actually think Arteta doesn't have a lot of personality. I think he can get very fired up and angry on the sideline, but I don't see as much like passion, or I actually think Arteta's pretty dry. And so maybe him being so methodical and robotic himself has rubbed off on the team a little bit too much, because you need to be able to tap into the emotional side of a player and get them to believe that they can do things outside of themselves, you know? And we don't have enough of those times, you know? Oh my God, this person is so fucking annoying. Can you stop? You're a fucking loser. Sorry. I know that was so rude, but you're such a loser. Who are you that keeps making these fucking accounts? Like, you're a loser. Can you stop? Jesus, I'm just gonna keep like getting you out. Dude Perp says Tommy was our best player offensively and defensively today. Do you know how sad that is when, concerning our attack, 0 world-class talent up front? We have to spend big this summer. And this is why I don't like what I'm hearing already about, well, Havertz has changed how Arsenal are thinking about their plans for the summer, and they're going to go get another versatile attacker. Please, for the love of God, can you stop with the versatile attacker and just it's like they almost don't, they're so afraid to like make the big move. They pussyfoot around it too much. I'm sorry. Like, I love the versatility of this team. And that's the thing, is like we go too far in one direction. Right now, we're too versatile and we have too many jacks of all trade, master of none, and we're too coached. We need to find a way to get a little bit closer to having more freedom. So whether that's being really, really organized at the back, very like good defensively, but we allow our attackers to have freedom. And you know, and we get 2 players in the team that are not as versatile, but are more, specialists at what they do. Then we'll come back to the medium. But right now we're too versatile. There's too many players whose main qualities are outside of what the position requires. So you have too many players that, you have too many defenders that, are not, this defending is not their main thing, or too many attackers where attacking is not their main thing. You have too many, people are too overcoached. It's just too much. It's too much and not enough for us to win. So you can bring in 2 specialists and still not lose your versatility. You have Trossard, who's versatile. You have Jesus, that's fucking versatile. You have Kai, that's versatile. You have Declan Rice, who's pretty versatile. You have fullbacks that are versatile. Everything is versatile. You can have 1 or 2 specialists, and you need a midfielder that can midfield. You have got to do better with Odegaard and Rice. You have got to support them with a player that can do the things that they don't do well. You have to. I'm tired of watching Odegaard slide tackle, guys. I am. Odegaard needs to conserve some of his energy to create. He's doing too much defensive work. It's going too far in the other direction. I know we don't want an Ozil situation where Ozil basically would not defend at all. But we've gotten into we've gone so far in the other direction that Odegaard spends most of his time pressing and slide tackling. And when he gets in and around the box, then he's like, you know, and I'm just, yeah, like I feel Declan's main strength is protecting the back line and stopping counterattacks. That is his main thing. That is what he's good at. That's what he is elite at. Let him do that and buy somebody that doesn't play in his position and do the things that he can't do, but plays in a different position and does the things that he can't do. Left, center, mid. Left, center, mid. And somebody that can do a little bit of defending so Odegaard could just exist in the pockets. Just do that. Please. That's it. Get a striker that can strike. Then if you want a striker that don't strike, then you can use Kai and Jesus to do that shit. But get a striker that can just, like, that's all they care about. I don't want anybody that's thinking about anything else. Not the best defensive forward I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Just kick the ball in the back of the net, buddy. That's it. Like, that's all I want. That's it. And I feel like that's all we should focus on. Right now, we're too stiff. We're too versatile. We're too overcoached. We're too far in the other direction. You got to swing in that. We don't have to be full arson. That's not what I'm saying. But we need to come to the middle. We're too far. Levon, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, and ignore the weirdos. Jess, I come here because you provide great perspective of the game. Thoughts on Isak joining? I just don't think he will. I think that Newcastle would be so stupid looking at the market to get rid of him. Because there's nobody out there that can do the things like that's a 20 goal per season striker. You know, right now he has 20 goals in the league. He's with missing 20% of the season, he's a 20 goal per season striker. That's gold dust. That's gold dust. Right now they're playing better. They're in line to get some type of European football. They would be so stupid to replace him or to let him go. So I think if they need to sell a player, which I think they'll sell one big player this summer, it won't be him. It'll be Bruno Guimaraes because he ain't never said not one time that he wants to stay there. Not one. You know, he's just gagging to go somewhere else. You know it. Bruno Guimaraes would be perfect in a lot of teams, you know? So I think the main signing that also because not that you can replace Bruno more easily, but there are players that there's more of a good group of like CDM 8s out there that Arsenal seemingly cannot see, but they're out there that Newcastle can go get, but you're not going to find another Isak. You're just not, you know? So guarantee the goals and then replace the midfielder. So if they do sell somebody, I feel like it'll be him. Isak would be perfect if, we've looked at the injuries and stuff like that. You have to weigh up that risk. He ticks a lot of boxes. That being said, there are other players that genuinely it will not take that much to upgrade our attacking situation. It really won't. It really won't. Everybody feels like we have to get the world-class striker. I don't even think it'll take that. I think we just need somebody that gives a fuck about putting the ball in the back of the net and is good at it. That's it. I think that's all we need, genuinely. So that's, Gyökeres, that's, Isak. There's a couple other players that you could probably think of, but Arsenal can't miss because right now we have 3 or 4 players that play in that position that don't care enough about scoring goals. They don't care enough about scoring goals. It won't take much. It won't take much. Genuinely, we look like a team that has not invested in the attack. We haven't. The amount of money that we've spent on defense, if we spent that in the attack, we'd be so much further along. But everything has been geared towards the back, buying goalkeepers, buying left backs, buying center backs, buying DMs. And that's fine. And we've needed those things, but we could have used a winger in there. We could have used a striker in there. And goals change games. And that's the main thing is that if we're not perfect at the back, Our attack is never going to bail out our offense or our defense. The attack never bails out the defense. The defense bails the attack out all the time. Saliba and Gabriel have played a lot of football being damn near perfect almost all season. They've been damn near perfect. But when has Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, when have they bailed them out? Probably not very much. There's not very many games I can think of where I'm like, damn, our defense had a mare, but like our attack saved us. I've not said that. And I feel like that just speaks volumes. Saliba and Gabriel and them, they can't be perfect every game. They shouldn't be required to have a clean sheet every single game. They've been damn near perfect. And no, like I haven't loved their performances in the last couple of games. I think they've been shaky, but my goodness. Can you guys score a fucking goal? Can you score a couple of goals? Can you nick one? Can you take a shot? Can you be on the end of a cross? Can you put in a good corner? The corner that Saka put in at the end of the game, the final corner, didn't even beat the first man. I was ill. Sick to my stomach. All year, we've been so good at corners. All of a sudden, when the pressure is on, you notice how we haven't scored from a corner in a while? Shit. That just pissed me off all over again. Boy says Saka and Martinelli were a non today. And to be honest, we have not had that many good winger performances this season. Our wingers have been, remember the whole first part of the season was, well, they're being double teamed. We spent the whole first half of the season saying they've been double teamed. So it's hard for them to get going. We haven't really, I mean, Saka has done very well to maintain a certain level of GA, despite probably not having the best season from a eye test perspective. If we're watching him, we're not really seeing him take on his man, beat his man. You know, the performances haven't really matched up as well as we probably want them to. And Martinelli has been non-factor. A non-factor all season, whether he's been injured or when he's playing, he's been awful. You know, so not having our wingers, which was kind of like our bread and butter, like what was keeping us like really going last season is tough to take. You know, you have to have a good winger pairing. You have to. Every good team I feel like has wingers that just absolutely toast people, that create opportunities, that create havoc, and ours are not creating shit but bad memories. You know, so I don't know what to tell you. Valeria says, question, have we overrated some of our players when it comes to the highest level to produce them class performances? They show that they are not quite at that level. I would say that, you know, if I haven't seen them put in those performances before, I would say yes. But because I've seen Saka do it for England, because I've seen Martinelli do it for Brazil, because I've seen Odegaard do it at times, I know that they can perform better than what they have been performing. I think a lot of this is the way that we set up in those games. Yeah, like they could break free, but like we know Arteta doesn't play players that don't play the way that he wants them to play. So in order for them to play, they have to play this very stiff, overcoached game. And so do I think that our players maybe are a little bit overrated? I think it's a combination. They could be a little bit overrated, but are their performances performances representative of how good they are? No, I don't think so. I think our attack is very much so stunted by the lack of freedom, the lack of being able to do things off the cuff, because I've seen Saka and Martinelli and Odegaard create magical things, but as time is going on, we're seeing less and less of it because Arteta is going like this. Stop. I need to control this. You know, we've seen it. Remember when we were really shit and Saka and Martinelli used to play on the same side? There's performances of Saka when he was like 18, 19, playing in the left center mid role and doing really well. I've seen them create. No, I don't think Odegaard will or Saka will ever be as like move you as much as like, you know, the more trickier players. He'll always fall short of that. But is this his best? No. No. Is this Martinelli's best? No. Martinelli has lost all of his what makes him special. Martinelli is not going to outskill somebody. But what he's going to do is he's going to outrun you, he's going to outwork you, he's going to scare you, and when he's going to shoot on sight. That Martinelli is not there. So, yeah, maybe in the end of the day, I overrate our players. But what I'm watching is not a true representation of how good our attack is or can be. Because we saw last season that they can do it. They can do it. But they've been strangled. They're like, like they're dead, Inverted Maldini says you need space for all that. I you know what, the space thing is interesting because I feel like because we refuse to the reason why we never have space on the wings for our wingers is because they know we're not going to play down the middle. And that's because we're risk adverse. If you really want to hurt a team, try to play through the middle because that's where the goal is. You want to get into zone 14, but we avoid zone 14 like we are avoiding, the plague. Like we are avoiding that area because also if you give the ball away in that area, you're vulnerable. So we force it down the wings. And so all teams have to do is put many, many men on the wings because they also know they don't have to mark Kai. They don't have to mark Kai, Jesus, and Kedia, any of the people they don't have to mark them. Why? Because we're never going to pass it to them there. We're never going to pass. We're never going to pass it there. So I feel like we would create more space for our wingers if we weren't so afraid to go down the middle. And I don't think Jorginho and Rice cannot pass down the middle. I don't think they're allowed to. What we do on a daily basis is get the ball, and Saliba and Gabriel and White are bumbling around on the ball. They finally will find the ball to Odegaard. Odegaard will pass it to Saka. They try to create some sort of situation to release Saka into that space. But because teams have clocked it, they just win it, And so the space thing is interesting because people have decided that because teams respect us more, we don't have any space. That's part of it, but it's also because they know we have no threat down the middle. If you have a striker that they're afraid of, that they know that we're not afraid to hit down the middle or play into the space, we're not afraid to hit that player, they will not have so many numbers on our wingers. We have no threat down the middle. No threat down the middle. None. Because even if they're double teamed, that means that somebody should be open. But we don't pass it to them. Inverted Maldini says Vinny gets double teamed all the time. Boy says we should have used Martinelli as market bait. MM says terrible in switches, less and less overlaps. Let's see. Dude says we need to stop making excuses for Martinelli. Oh, he needs space. That means he is just a system player. What world-class winger is so dependent on left center mid? Did y'all see Rodrigo today? Come on. I don't think it's like just the system. Like it's a combination of things. I feel like that's why I don't feel like anything is as black and white as it may seem. Maybe our players aren't world-class level, but I don't think they're as bad as what they're showing today. Is the system holding them back a little bit? Yes. But do they need to look at themselves in the mirror? Yes. Like it's a combination, but I think these players, in order to be as good as they can be, they probably need a little bit more freedom because there needs to be more creation because they're not as clinical. That's just the reality. You can't have 2 DMs and 4 center backs. That's 6 of your outfield players, which means you only have 4 left. And those 4 are Odegaard, who's being asked to press and drop deep and defend. And also Saka and Martinelli are like at the halfway line. Like a good example of why we don't attack well is when we're defending, we don't leave anybody high. And that makes us good defensively. But what it also does is whenever we kick it out, that's why there's long periods of time sometimes in games where even against shit teams we don't have the ball, is because we just keep kicking it out and there's nobody up there. We allow zero jeopardy. And so the players don't create jeopardy with the way that they play, and the manager also doesn't allow any chaos to happen, which also decreases the likelihood of any sort of jeopardy for the other team. So yeah, it's crazy. It really is. But I think the main thing that we've spoken about today is that they feel overcoached. The mentality is not good enough. And there'll be a lot of conversations about the manager, which I don't think that there shouldn't be any conversations about him. You know, I've always been open to saying the truth that I don't know if there's any definitive evidence that he's world class or will be. And I also don't think there's any definitive, there's nothing definitive there as well as like he's absolutely not going to be or going to be. But do we have the time to wait? Are we willing to allow this group of players to leave us like they always do because we don't do what's necessary in order to win? Those are really tough questions. I don't think that some of these players are going to stick around just for top four, because that's all we're really good for right now is top four. So they need to get it together. They need to get it together. They need to figure that shit out. But also, if I was a player and I was playing for Arsenal right now, I would be disappointed at what I saw, but I would also be a little bit disappointed too that, like, when we're bringing players off of the bench to help us win, it's like Eddie and shit. That's not elite. So they need to create an elite environment for the players that we have, and then maybe everybody will just go up a level. If I'm Saliba and I'm watching Eddie coming out there, I'm like, fuck it, it's done. And so is that like, that's laughable. It's laughable to have Eddie coming out there at that point, right? And so that's just, all of it is just, there's a lot of conversations to be had. The 11 didn't play well. The options off the bench weren't good. I don't know what happens in April, but, Arteta's not able to get the team into like a relaxed mental space. And that's weird to me. And yeah, and nobody can blame certain players because they weren't on the pitch, because like I told you guys, it's not the lineup. Blank Face Killa says, there's nothing wrong with admitting Arteta isn't a winner. The only way that he changes that if he decides to stop eggheading it and get world-class players in. And, maybe a way to help him, I guess, nobody's ever really done this before as well. Like, they always talk about, the class of 92, and that was a young team, but they were underpinned by a very experienced group of players. There were experienced winners in that team that were in and amongst the class of 92. And then they had Sir Alex Ferguson, right? And so nobody is really, you don't really find that where you have a very young team with no proven winners in it, that's also as a manager that's never managed before. This is Arteta's fourth year in management. It's not his fourth year at Arsenal. It's his fourth year in management. He's really learning on the job. So I think we should, like, my personal thing would have been pick your poison. Either you want to do a young team with an experienced manager, you want to do a young manager with an experienced team. And we've kind of went full into like this idea that we're going to recreate the wheel, and we're getting close, but we're still really flattering to deceive when it really matters. So as good as the players are, as good as we've gotten to a point where we're looking like a Champions League level team, we're performing well in the league. Is it a winning environment not to have any proven winners in the team or a manager that's won before? Show me a winning environment that doesn't have those things. So that's what they need to look at. Personally, in the summer, they need to go get players that are fucking for real. Like, do not bring any children. Do not bring any projects. Do not bring, go out there and really push the envelope, from players' perspective. And you can make your mind up whether or not you feel like the manager should continue. I honestly think the manager will continue whether you want him to or not. But at the bare minimum, they need to get players that can do it, and just finish off the team. Stop buying these versatile players that can do a bunch of different things that they really can't do. And, just get the players. So yeah, like Arsenal Perspective says, the last few pieces of the jigsaw that have kind of already that are kind of always been what we've spoken about. Like there has not been a summer window or a window in general where we have not spoken about bringing in a midfielder and a striker. There has not been a single window where we haven't spoken about those things, but yet and still we're still talking about them. Like we could not have brought one in unless Xhaka left, and even when Xhaka left, we still didn't do it. We needed 2 midfielders in the summer. We needed a midfield overhaul. We did part of it, and we didn't even get the striker. That could have at least alleviated, like, if we were fucked up in midfield, we could at least score goals, right? And so we just kind of left it unfinished, and I would just love for it to be more finished, because we've talked about this. Adetayo says, what that was supposed to be Zinni and Gabriel Jesus, the proven winners. Fair enough. You can say that's what they were supposed to be. They were supposed to be the proven winners. I would say probably not, because I thought that they would bring experience, but I never really bought into the idea that they were going to be leaders. I thought, okay, well, what they did do was they upped the technical level and they made us better, but they definitely didn't add that winning mentality because they were never really like a key piece of the jigsaw puzzle at either one of City or at City. So I get what you're saying. I'm not sure that they were brought in to be the leaders of the team. I think they were brought in because Arteta trusted them, but we still need to buy those players. So yeah. Winning Way says Coke Palmer at Arsenal would cook. Mode Man says Jesus was never a proper answer to our striker need. He was going to give us a few goals, but not week in, week out. You can have Jesus in your team, but he's not really a reliable goal scorer. So if you're not going to maintain a system that allows everybody else to score at a insane rate, then you need to get a striker that's going to score those goals. And this season, we've kind of made it such that like it's more difficult for our wingers to score, and we also did not bring in a real striker, so we've shot ourselves in the foot. Last season, like we had Saka and Martinelli scoring at nauseum, so it's just, yeah, it's one of those things, right? We just need a striker. Like we need that fail proof. I feel like that'll also take some pressure off, Saka and these guys, because they obviously can't handle being the main goal scorers, which it's not that big of a deal. I don't think a winger or your creative midfielder not being able to handle being your main goal scorer is that big of a problem. I think your strikers, the ones that you have, not being able to be your main goal scorers is a bigger problem. So I'm all for Saka and Odegaard taking a back row seat to somebody that's what they do, because Saka and Odegaard create a lot of chances. They create a lot of chances. So if you have somebody that just cares about scoring, that's fine. But what I do have a problem with is having no striker that can carry that burden and then putting that burden on players where that's not even their main skill set. And if you're buying strikers where that's not even their main skill set, then what are we doing? We just have a lot of versatile, can do multiple things, can play multiple positions, can do a lot of shit, can do a lot of defending and win balls, but not anybody that's putting the ball in the back of the net. Come on now. Pirates of Orlando says this summer we need to sign real big club players. What we have is for Tottenham, not Arsenal. For a very long time now, Arsenal have forgotten what a big club are. There's Leao, Rafinha, Boniface. There's really no excuse not to go get players that really move the needle. We've done enough of the building the foundation. We have enough players there. There's no shortage of players that you could sell as well. So there's no real like, oh, well, we need to like sell before. Like there's enough players to sell too. You have a lot of dead weight on the bench that you can get money for. There's really no excuse to not hit the summer well. I just feel like beyond the summer window, which needs to be a slam dunk, which I'm not 100% sure that they will do it because they always find a way to wiggle out of it, is what kind of damage is this doing to the players that we already have? Like to fail so many times for a young player? Is that, can they wipe it off with a goldfish memory, or is it becoming like a mental blockage for them? Because for some of these players, it's 3 years in a row. Some will be 2, some will be 1, but how does that be like, is it motivating them to get rid of that narrative, or is it slowly becoming who they are? That's something else I'm thinking about too, because I'm like, you can't become a fucking loser. Like, you cannot absorb the loser mentality, because once you absorb it and accept that you're a loser, it doesn't go away. Once Jesus accepted that he wasn't a goal scorer and started going out into the media and saying that goal scoring wasn't his main thing, he let that sink in, and it killed him off. It killed him off. Lacazette, same thing. Once he accepted that he was not a goal scorer and he was just this guy that was up there to work hard, he was done. Once you accept shit like that, you're done. So I'm just wondering if there's going to be some like mental block for this group, or are we getting the benefit of having young players? Young players are meant to just shake that shit off, and they're not shaking it off. So it's time to act like a young player, have a goldfish memory, shake it off. You should be like, where's the youthful exuberance? Where's the, youthful, like, where you don't know what you don't know can't hurt you. Like, where is that? They're not acting like young players. They're acting like guys that have lost a lot, and are fucking old, and they're afraid they're never going to win anything in their career. You're young, some of you guys are 22, 23, 24 years old. Like, you have time. Like, it's crazy. Keenan says Saka is dead on his feet. Real have top level players like Valverde, Diaz, and Lucas that can give them a rest. Yeah, I mean, we definitely need. I mean, but the problem with this idea that we need players to give Saka a rest, we still haven't addressed the starting 11. There are questions that we have not gotten the answers to, or have not solved for the last 2 or 3 windows. So we should be building depth, or have depth, but we're still fucking around with the starting 11, because we're doing this like, get a bunch of guys that can do a bunch of shit that they can't really do. So we're going to go through another summer window of trying to get players that we should have gotten 2-3 summers ago, and we still won't build depth, because we're going to be building depth with players that can't maintain fitness. So I'm not sure. And then Arteta also has to trust his ability to keep things together with players that aren't as good as the starters. That is still not solved. It's not done. Like, there were games where we were winning 6-0 in this period. He knew this period was coming, by the way. You could see in the horizon that we were in the Champions League, in the quarterfinal, also with like really tough games, Villa, Chelsea, United. You could see that from a mile away. And we were up 6-0, 5-0, 4-0. And Saka, Odegaard, these guys were still on the pitch from the first minute to the last. There was it's like, if we don't have those players out there, there's no opportunity to. We did it once, like for Luton, but there should have been multiple games like that. One thing I will always love about Klopp, and there are games where Liverpool will put out kids and the rotational options and go with and still win the game. It may not be their best, but they'll still win the game, because he knows that he has other games coming up where he can't afford for his best players to be tired, And there are just too many games where we had to have Saliba, Gabriel, White, and whoever else. We had to have Rice and Jorginho and Odegaard. We had to have Saka, and then there was no like, bring in Reece for 2 games, bring in fucking ESR for a couple of games, full games, start them, and just lightly rotate. Now dudes are fucking blowing. Rice looks like he is done. I don't know how Odegaard is still standing, so that's still not solved. Because just because that player is not as good as Saka, by the way, Just because these players are not as good as Saka, not as good as Odegaard, that doesn't mean that they can't actually give these players rest. Arteta chose not to do that. He chose not to, at 6-0 up, to play these players. He chose not to start one or two of them here and there. And if you can't beat Burnley and Sheffield and these guys with one or two of your starters out, you're not as good as you think you are. You're not as good as you think you are, So this is to me, this is still like a conversation where people think it's as simple as we just need to have world-class players on our bench. Nah, like I'm not seeing any sort of like learning that the players on the bench need to play a bigger role in the lead up to the end of the season, so that when we get to April, we're playing as good as we possibly can. Shamaria says we should be able to play Partey and give Rice a rest, but no, the guy can't stay fit, and we didn't get rid of him when we should have. Well, other people are saying there's no way on earth that we could have gotten rid of Partey. We couldn't even fathom getting rid of him, because if we got rid of him, we'd never find a player like him. But the entire season, he hasn't been able to give Rice a rest. He's been a non-factor because he's been injured the whole season. So, I don't really know where to go with that, because in the summer it was by no means necessary. Can you sell this guy? But he's not helped us. Like I said, anybody that has had multiple seasons where they've missed 50% or more we have to start looking beyond them. And when I say looking beyond them, I mean sell them, move them on. They're not helping us, and they never will. And this saving them for the odd game that they'll be fit for, it doesn't work. You can't save people for the end of the season so that they can play one or two Champions League games. It doesn't work like that. Off the Radar says the squad lets Arteta down always. Look at the cup games. No effort from the squad players. We look the same no matter how we play in cups, though. That's the only thing that I feel like the argument doesn't hold up, that they let him down. In cup games this season, have we had one cup games where if you don't win, you're out, or there's two legs? Has there been a single game, no matter who started, where you felt like we had a really good performance? In the FA Cup, who do we play? FA Cup, we played, or Carabao Cup, we played West Ham, and that was a heavily rotated lineup. We went out. In the FA Cup, you guys will remind me, because there's some Brentford away. We were okay. Still was not a good performance. We still were not, it was a 1-0 game. It was very cagey with a rotated lineup. We played a stronger lineup against Liverpool. They tried to give it to us, and we still could not win at home. And then in the knockout rounds, we've been pretty poor in every single game in the knockouts. So I'm not really buying this it's the players that have let us down. We don't play well in cups, no matter who plays, whether it's the good starting 11 or not. We played a game against Nottingham Forest a couple of seasons ago where we had half starting 11, half rotation, and we went out to Nottingham Forest. It's not just the squad players are letting him down. Fundamentally, we do not play well in cups. It needs to be studied. It genuinely needs to be studied. It needs to be studied. Aman says, I feel like the only way to build a winning culture is to take the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup seriously. We need that feeling of progressing through the rounds and not getting knocked out in the first round. That's an interesting point. Winning Way says, next year as fans, let's not celebrate too quick or talk about winning things. Every team that wins has a world-class striker and defense. MM says, even Porto was tough watch, couldn't beat a 40-year-old Pepe. Keenan says, gotta remember we lost Timber. That hurts us bad. He should have been immense against the Sane types. You know what I'll say about that is I agree that I feel like Timber is a big downer, and he would have made a big difference. But that still doesn't account for how long it took us to figure out a solution from midfield that allowed us to score goals a little bit more freely, and why Martinelli is not our wingers haven't had a good season. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, I understand Timber, but like a lot of the things that we're looking forward to in the season to help us get beyond or get over the line are defensive players. If we had Timber, if Tomiyasu had been fit, if we hadn't played Zinchenko, if Partey would have been fit, these are all like defensive players that we're looking at to be the changer or the catalyst to us being better when we already have a really good defense. Our defense is actually really, really good. It's not really the defense. Timber could have probably helped save us a little bit in some of these situations, but we're putting a lot of emphasis. Like I remember when we were going through a difficult period, it was just wait till Partey and Tomiyasu are back and watch out. Champions League hasn't seen nothing until you see Tomiyasu and Partey in Champions League. And I'm wondering if it's like, yeah, Timber would have made a difference, but if we had just had a world-class striker or a really good striker and a left center mid, we probably would have been able to survive even if Timber got the ACL. It took Arteta way too long to figure out a solution for midfield. And even the solution that we figured out still wasn't foolproof because in bigger games, we still a little, So yeah, I agree with the Timber and the inverting, and that would have changed things. But I still kind of feel like we probably still would have not been this. We still probably would have been just around where we're at, I don't know if he makes us into a title winning. Like, is Timber the difference between us winning the league or not? You know? Um, let's see. Boy says, and frankly, Timber doesn't stop any of Bayern's goals in the two legs. Blank Face Killer says, we need a striker. And if Havertz isn't playing well, he needs to be bench. Keenan says, Timber inverting alongside Rice would have temporarily shored up that midfield. Yeah, it probably would have been. I think Arteta, here's my true feelings, and we'll get out of here soon because we've been talking for 2 hours, but I want to do like a 2-hour like long session anyway because I felt like we needed it. But I do feel like he just galaxy brained the summer window a little bit too much, and his whole plan of this whole idea of like inverting Timber next to Rice or Partey or whatever, and then having Kai be this left center mid, because that was always the original plan. Like I do feel like, yeah, like he was gonna play him at center forward at some points, but like if Jesus had been fit enough to play in the Community Shield, he would have started the Community Shield at center forward. Like he would have. I think this Kai Havertz as a center forward has come later on, but the original plan was for Kai to play left center mid. And I think it was just too galaxy brain. Too many pieces were built around one other piece being there. Timber being out meant that you had to shift things around a lot more than you probably wanted to. And the solution, like of Kai Havertz not really being a midfielder and being a box crasher, it doesn't work when you don't have that additional midfielder coming from the back line. And a lot of teams had figured out how to stop our inversion from being as potent as it was last season. So I just feel like there's an over-reliance on too many pieces being there all the time and working together. And we got a very harsh card dealt to us with Timber out, which you can kind of understand and be like, well, if we had Timber, if Partey hadn't got injured, whatever. But genuinely, we had a good enough team to figure out shit. And it shouldn't have been like a left back collapse the first part of the season and made it hard for us to even like be like create. There was a period of time where we were like very low on like even like creating chances from open play at the beginning of the season. I will never forget it because we talked about it ad nauseum. So I understand that. I understand that Timber would have helped, but I don't think Timber is the difference between us being a Champions League, semifinalist or, a Premier League winning team. I think he would have made us a little bit better from the beginning, but we don't have enough players individually that can create moments in attack, and we're too stiff in attack as it is. Our attack is too built on too many players playing outside of what their position actually requires them. We have a left center mid that's not supposed to be left center midding. We have wingers that play like fullbacks. We have a striker that plays like, a fucking DM, things like that. It's just too much, so I think that he needs to go. It's going to sound bad, but I feel like he needs to almost like humble just a little bit and be like, yeah, I kind of galaxy brained the fuck out of the season, and we could have been a lot better if I had not overthought it. And just go back to basics. We have a very good defensive line. We have a very good, like, our defense is so good. Like, we are stopping, like, genuinely, they could be 2% worse. And if we had a better attack, it wouldn't matter. You know, that defense is so stifling. We stop most teams from doing anything, but they should not have to be perfect for us to get anything in big games. The attack needs work. And that's from a systematic standpoint of allowing them freedom and also buying players that can change the game, can really make things shake. I really don't I really don't think our players are as bad as they've looked. But equally, they haven't performed well and they need to look at themselves in the mirror too. Boss J says, I really do think hard questions have to be asked if this manager, his arrogance has cost us in cup competitions and our attack hasn't been improved since he's been here. I mean, it's just whether or not they feel like it's on him or not. I feel like the ethos out of the club has been, if we're not hitting our targets, then we need to support him more. And I get that in the beginning when we're in turmoil and it's the first, 2 seasons and we have so many things missing. But these last 2 seasons, the first 2 seasons, I understood when we finished 8th and we finished 5th. But this season and last season, I do feel like there's been very glaring things that we just haven't done. And so he's been supported a lot more than most managers would have ever been supported. But is he living up to the support that he's been given? Like, is the support getting us what we should be getting? And is there a grown-up in the room that can tell Mikel this, or even question it, like, this guy actually hasn't done this before. Should we be trusting that, we went after Mount and Gundogan, but he wants to do a complete 180 and go for Havertz? There should have been a grown-up in the room, saying, is that okay? And if there was a grown-up in the room, you also needed to just say, absolutely not. We're going to go get striker. We're going to go get a left center mid that's more analogous to the Gundogan and the Mount who you wanted before. Because that would have raised a whole bunch of red flags with me if I do. Okay, so we wanted Mount. That was your number one option. But now that we can't get Mount, we're going to go for somebody that's a completely different profile, that's not really a midfielder, And so, yeah, I feel like there just needs to be more grown-ups in the room. And then also the support, it's great and we've improved. But, if we had given that support to any other manager, what would the outcome have been? Like, that's what they need to kind of like look at, If the support had gone to, let's say if we had hired, let's say, we had hired, I don't know. Well, let's use Emery. Let's say we didn't sack Emery and Emery got the support that Mikel has gotten all this time. Do you feel like the results would be so much different? So drastically different that it makes so much sense that Arteta should be getting this support. You know what I mean? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, the support makes sense. I feel like most managers that we have, like the managers that we have, should get this level of support. But what are we getting back from it? And is he so special that this level of support makes sense? Or could we have put anybody in there and given them 4 years and a lot of different players and gotten a similar result? Those are questions that they need to ask. Like, those are questions that they need to ask. Those are questions that I'm asking, So that's all. That's it. Basho says free flowing football for sure. Yeah, like free flowing football would be, I feel like free flowing up front plus the defense that we have at the back, some sort of combination of that helps us a lot more. But I definitely don't want to go back into like arson territory where we were like really shit at the back, H says, I'm down bad. I'm sorry. I know it's so shit. But I think we knew a crash could be coming, and it's come. So at least we have each other. Shamaria says, I think Arteta will finally get it right next season, but we could have gotten to the final destination a lot quicker. That's a good point. Are we moving as quickly as we could? Probably not, because we have somebody learning on the job. But he has to know that the past summer window, we didn't get as much as we should have from 250 million spent. Like, we should feel like we're a lot closer to our goal. And I feel like maybe we're in the same-ish spot. But a striker and a left center mid could solve a lot of fucking problems. A lot of fucking problems. And some better integration of some of the players on the fringes of the team. And and some more freedom up front to allow Saka and Odegaard and them to be Arsenal players up front. I was like, God damn, they need to go to Hale End. I was like, some of them need to go spend some time in the academy because this ain't it. This is not it. They should be able to pass and move. I've seen better football up front from academy players that played in cups. Like before, when we used to beat up teams in cup competitions with just academy kids, the Iwobies and shit, and Chuback Palm, I've seen better football from them. So they need to take some time, get Martinelli in them, and put them in a 2-week boot camp in Hale End and relearn the basics, because this is not it. You can be defensively stout and good in your positioning and have a good shape, but my goodness, you have to be able to pass it to your teammate. You have got to be able to create off the cuff, And these guys were like, okay, but this is what we practiced, but that player is marked, but I'm still going to pass it there because that's where they should be. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. Mm-mm. Sam says, Jess, do you regret supporting Arsenal? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Let's be serious. Arsenal has given me some of the best times. The community, the Arsenal community, I would never want to be a part of any other fan base. And this is just the reality. You pick a side, you pick a team, and you stick with it. Bad or good. I would never, ever, ever regret being an Arsenal supporter. Ever. But I also got to enjoy some of the good times. So if you chose Arsenal during the Emirates era, I feel a little bit worse for you. But I've seen us win a Premier League. I've seen us win trophies. I've seen us be very, very good and very, very dominant. So I can die in peace, knowing that I enjoyed at least the end of when we were really, really good. And some of you guys may be able to enjoy, a time where we're really good again, but as a supporter of a team, it's a requirement to go through bad times as well. And you can't stomach it. I don't know, but some people, they don't want to support when it's bad. And and especially like new fans, I'm not saying you, but I've never once in my life regretted being an Arsenal fan. I love it. They will always be the relationship that, is like, fuck, like you really are like sending me to a therapy, couch. Like, genuinely, I need to send you a bill for like my mental instability. Like every time I go to the hospital, like I need to send you the bill because you're making me ill. But I love it. I love my team. I literally would never like want to be anything else, and there's no guarantee that you'd be happy anywhere else either, so that's just me. I love Arsenal. Boy says, relax, people. Arteta is winning the league next season or the one after. Shamaria says, hate to say this, but we may need to go through this to see the promised land. I don't want to say I don't want to say I think for sure, that it's coming, but I genuinely don't think we're that far off. It's tough right now because you can see all the glaring issues, but like I've said, like I genuinely feel like if Arteta could find a better balance between who we were the season prior and who we are now, bring in some winners that play in the positions that we know need to be addressed, and he also learned some lessons and humble himself, we're not that far. Because we're not that far away from the devil of Pep Guardiola not being at Man City anymore. And yes, I know it's like, oh, we're just waiting for him to leave, but like genuinely, that's probably when things will get brighter. Klopp will go. And yes, there'll be a resurgence of other teams that are good. Maybe Chelsea's good, then maybe Man United's good. But I don't think we're that far off. So it feels like everything sucks and everybody's terrible and we're the worst team on the planet and we should never kick a ball again and blah, blah, blah. but I don't think we're that far. I think what's more maybe annoying is that there are things that have been said for multiple seasons that feel like should have been addressed but haven't been, and we're like kind of going outside the same ways, and that's hard to take. So I don't think we're that far away, but I do think that like we cannot continue to do the same things. Buying versatile players that can't do a lot, doing that, not integrating, squad players, playing players to their legs fall off, whatever. Like those things cannot happen again, So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Shamara says, same Jess, I believe Arteta will gain some sense and see the light and push the team over the line. He has to, or he has to go. He needs to learn. Like it's not just the players, it's also Mikel, so everybody has played their part, including the fans, because these players are hyper aware of how the fans feel about them. And as much as we can say, like, don't look at social media, they look at it. And Trossard even talking about stuff in the press conference, to me, was not a good sign. They were absorbing the negativity after the loss against Villa. And they're super like, I don't know, they're a group that I just don't feel like have the, well, fuck you, we're going to do it differently. I generally feel like they need the fans behind them. And the fans haven't been behind them in the last couple of days, so it's tough. We all play our our role. Let's see. Amadou says, Jess, what do you see happening between now and the end of the season? Keep pushing or capitulate? Could City drop points? I mean, listen, I love this team, but I know this team. Until there's nothing to play for, we'll probably still play poorly. I just feel like the mentality is just not there. We lose in bunches, and we have Wolves at the weekend away from home, and I'm just not sure that we're going to be able to pick up and dust it off until like we've dropped enough points where we're just like cruising into the top 4 type thing. That's what I think is going to happen. I love this team, but I know this team. I would love for them to prove me wrong, but it's been 3 years and I know your pattern. You capitulate 3 games or so. The media makes this big thing about, but you can still save the season. When we play against Everton and we have nothing on the line, that game will be beautiful because we'll win that bitch 5-0. But we're not going to, I just don't think we have it, unfortunately. Sucks. Newman says, just seems very upbeat despite defeat. It's tough to still have the rage after two seasons of seeing this. Last season I did not take it well at all. So I had my more like upset moment in December when I knew that our season was pretty much over. Because we dropped too many points. We actually dropped too many points early on in the season. Fulham at home was a big one, not scoring at Aston Villa and like leaving with nothing at Newcastle. Those really stood out to me. And then also then we went into December and decided to lose to West Ham and Fulham. And I thought at that moment I had my season's over moment. And so from here on out, I've been pleasantly surprised that we've been able to maintain some level of like, we're still in the race. But I was also very cautious about what was going to happen when we reached April. And until I see this team persevere in this April period, it's gonna suck to say, but I'm always gonna kind of think that they're gonna have this until they change it. But I'm finding it difficult to have like this very like rage reaction because I already had it in December when I knew we threw it away, and then like last season was so bad that I just cannot get up for it again. Because I did not feel confident going into this season. I'll be really honest with you. I was when the window closed, I felt like we left some holes in the squad, some really obvious holes in the squad. We didn't play well in preseason at all. And Timber got the ACL, and I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like I don't think we're gonna do it. And I tried to pretend like I thought we were gonna do it, but I always kind of had it in the back of my mind that we wouldn't. So but I do think that like we've done a really good job to like stay in and around it, but we're so fragile. We're so fragile. It only takes one loss and really it wasn't even the Aston Villa loss. It was the draw against Bayern. That was it. you could see that the thread was coming loose. You could see it because players that were perfect for a long time has started to making uncharacteristic errors in the back, and I was like, it's starting. And then we played against Villa, and we were like snatching at shots in the beginning. We felt like we had to win it in the first half or it was over. Then we were tired, and then we fucked up and then lost 2-0. Then we came into this game, and I was like, if they won this, I'd be very surprised. you know, Vermi says, hoping to at least retain second because it would be devastating to end up lower than last year, especially the way 2024 began. Desert says it was the loss against Porto for you. Kasi says, saying Arteta out at this point makes no sense. We need to keep supporting our team, and we are progressing. Shamaria says, the Timber ACL set the tone from this. It was like when Timber, guys, I was in the stadium when Timber got the ACL, and I kid you not, like I had about this much hope because I went to almost every single preseason game, and we were poor in preseason. We were really bad. And I don't feel like you have to be perfect in preseason, but I don't think we're City where we can just be shit in preseason and just turn up and win. And we were bad in preseason. And then you were playing against Nottingham Forest. It was like not the best game. Saka scored like a wonder goal, and Nketiah scored, but it was like, not the best. Timber got the ACL, and like this little like hope that I had, it just went like this. Like it just, like I was like, oh shit, because like it's just like that's not the way. And he was actually the player that I was the most excited about, and so because I'm not getting excited about fucking Raya because he's a goalkeeper. I'm not really that excited about Kai. I'm like, what the fuck, Declan. I'm excited about, but like Timber was like the one I was really excited about, and he was gone, So there you go. But yeah, you guys, like, listen. I wanted to do again. I wanted to do more of a therapy session. I know some people are like devastated about like not doing player ratings because I think they wanted to give zeros. You can give zeros in your head. I know that we didn't play well. It didn't really make sense. I think to do the player ratings. I think it's just better to have like a therapy session because this has been a really tough week. It's been a really tough week. I've struggled. I think a lot of people have struggled, and so I actually feel a lot better now that we've just kind of like chit-chatted about it. And yeah, we have differences of opinion on things. I think, some people feel like it's more the individuals, or some people feel like it's more the manager. The manager has to go. But ultimately, like, it just really, really sucks to have another season where it feels like it's unraveling around the same time in the same way. And so sometimes it's just best to like get all of that out so that we can just kind of like, it's still going to hurt. Still going to be mad when we beat Everton 5-0 at the end of the season. Like, I'm still going to be pissed. But, it just is what it is, So hopefully this helped you guys even just a little bit. And maybe they'll be pleasantly surprise us by playing well against Wolves at the weekend. But, damn, Arsenal. Damn. Yeah. But yeah, we will reconvene. I know me and Diluted are gonna do our usual show in the morning, or morning for me, early afternoon for him. We do a show on his channel at 3, a show on my channel at 4. So that's gonna be interesting. We will chit chat about all of that. Wonder if he'll be coming at me again today or tomorrow about all the players that I'd gone in on. I'm sorry, but like there is no I told you so. Like there is no I told you so. Everybody is shit, so there you go. But we will we'll reconvene tomorrow. You guys try to enjoy the rest of your day if you guys can. Stay off socials. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye guys.